Hello everyone, Fara here. Special treat for us today. I have a Taiho carrier game which I'd like to review. Now I wasn't streaming or recording when this game happened, so I'm going to be using the replay system, which isn't perfect, but I felt that the game had a lot of critical moments in it and it was quite an intense game, and I'd like to share it with you so you can know what I was thinking, why I was thinking it, what I thought the best approaches were, what I should do to try and win the game, which seemed kind of lost, but kind of clawing it back. So with that being said, I'm going to start the replay. The replay is going to be limited into how much I can use it. It's going to be kind of more of a map top down as I was playing it. Can't really see all the shininess, but stick with me and I'll explain my thought process and how I was playing it, you know, in lines with the carrier guide that we made. Start the replay. So I'm a Taiho in a tier 9-10 game, and the backdrop is I was looking to complete the weekly mission, do about 150,000 damage and win the game. The damage was never going to be a problem. It's always been like win the game when you're playing by yourself and it's the weekend warriors. Your team kind of collapses around you and it gets quite frustrating. So here we go. So we have ourselves in our Taiho. As we said, it's a 9-10 game. There's an enemy Taiho. We've got Montana, Yamato, Friedrich, Amagi. There's only 2 cruisers and there's a lot of destroyers, 5 destroyers. At the moment, I'm just thinking, yeah, that's okay. That's 4 battleships. I can get 150,000 damage out of that. No big deal. Alright? It's Tears of the Desert in domination. That's nothing particularly special. The Montana is going to have high anti-air, so I need to be a little bit careful going near him. The Hindenburg could have good defensive fire, perhaps. The Ibiki, we're not so sure about. We don't really care too much about him. The Groz and the Gearing, they can have good AAs. The Destroyer, they can be quite hard to go for. But in the beginning, I'm not going after... In the beginning, I am not going after destroyers or cruisers. Because I want this 150,000 damage, I'm probably going to go after battleships. That's going to be my main goal. The replay system kind of has me locked into how I'm controlling the carrier. So basically, all these actions that you're seeing on the screen are how I interact with it. So not exactly the most perfect system, but it does let us relive the game. So fighters first. And then we'll send torpedo bombers next, dive bombers last in the order of priority of planes. I'm not really interested in doing quick scouts. I want to keep all the kind of bombers. It's a slow start to the game, so I'm basically going to see where our team goes. We see some are going to A, some are going to C. I'm going to send my planes to A, perhaps. I can see that's capping. I know there's 2 battleships in the north. That's the Yamato and the Friedrich, and I'm thinking, well, that's actually quite far away. There surely should be some other battleships probably in the south, because the enemy will also be a split group. Group up the torpedo bombers so they're all ready to attack something, and then give them a fighter escort and then move out. I know there's something at A, but I'm not sure what it is. I know our Yugamo's in there. I may fly over there. Alternatively, I'm looking for anything going to B, and I'm also looking for the enemy carrier planes. I don't really want to fly north near the Kagro, the Groz, the Ibiki to get to the Yamato behind them. It's not going to be an easy attack because at the moment my mentality isn't necessarily to win the game immediately, it's to get 150,000 damage. So immediately, look, there's an Amagi in the minimap just up here, and he's got a little bit of fire protection, so we've got to move our torpedo bombers back. We see the Shimakaze, split our fighters. We don't want to get strafed, the 2 fighters at the same time, and I don't want my fighters or torpedo bombers being strafed in one wave. I'm watching his planes in the minimap. I'm seeing that he's baited on one of the dive bombers, so I'm using the dive bomber as a sacrificial lamb just so he stays distracted, and this will allow me to go after this Amagi. I pull off the group 5 torpedo bomb wave thinking that I can hit him with 2 torpedo bombers, proc a flooding, and then send in the 7th dive bomber wave and the 5th torpedo bomber wave as a follow-up once he uses damage control party, and basically flood him to bleed him out. Now, I wasn't thinking clear because I thought I had a 2nd dive bomber wave, but I forgot I sent the 6th wave in and they sacrificed. So the dive bombers go in, you see his fighters are coming up to potentially contest us, so I'm protecting this one torpedo bomber. I realized my mistake, the dive bombers had been dropped while I had damage control party up, so the fire didn't stick, I think. We'll watch the damage numbers in a moment. So I've kept the other torpedo bomber wave. And I tried to strafe his fire by pulling them away because I saw they were chasing the 2 group. And then when I realized that the strafe wasn't working, in comes the 1 group, the 2 group exit strafes, and while this is all going on, the 5 group torpedo bombers are going to come in and hit the Amagi to try and get a follow-up flood to kill him off. This enemy fighter is still going after my 2 group. I exit strafe the 2 group, I attack with the 1 group, I get 2 torpedo hits with the 1 torpedo bomber squadron, no flooding, the guy gets away, he's not going to take a huge amount of damage. I think, although we are taking him up, but he doesn't die. Anyway, our 2 group fighters are wounded, they're down to 1 plane, but we won the fighter duel. Our 1 group fighters are no ammo, so we'll immediately call them back and reload. All the bombers are going to call back and reload and rearm as well. We see that the Amagi has now finally damage controlled, so we got 50,000 damage off of him, but he's still alive and he's going to heal up. But it's a start for us because we're going for damage. Elsewhere in the battle, not too overly focused what's going on over in Charlie. It's a 2-on-3 or a 2-on-4 destroyer battle going on, but in our focus as the carrier, I'm doing kind of plane management. I don't want planes taking off while everything's landing because it'll hijack everything. You want everything to land before you take anything off so that everything preps at once, because you don't want to take something off and things are waiting to land and then they finally land but then they need to prep and it just delays everything. In terms of what's going on, well, the enemy now has B cap, that's bad. The C cap and A cap are being contested. It looks like the enemy will grab the C cap. We're not necessarily grabbing the A cap yet because we need to push the enemy Z46 out. Although we have a lot of ships in the south, so I'm moving the carrier along the southern border so I can get closer to the enemy and have a quicker turnaround in planes. So, torpedo bombers are ready. We're loading the torpedo bombers, then we're losing the fighters. We're probably going to go after the ships in the south, so either we want to re-attack the Amagi, perhaps go after the Montana, but I know there's a Hindenburg protecting them, so that's debatable. I'm looking at the Yamato at Charlie, thinking, can I go for him because the Ibiki's out of position so far up in the north, but I do know that I'd have to go near a Gearing and a Groz, and I'm thinking, maybe, maybe not. It's kind of dangerous. First thing I'm going to do, though, is probably send the single dive bomber that's waiting after the Amagi, trigger some fires. If he damage control parties, I can use the remaining torpedo bombers to finish him off or get a kind of a flooding. While this is happening, I can see the fighters from the enemy is coming up. He's chasing from behind, so I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to send the 6th group dive bombers in, and then as soon as the payload's dropped, I'm going to send the plane slightly further away, and then as a rally point, and then flying around. So you see that the bombers don't immediately come back to my ship. They fly more to the east and then south, so that they escape the interception of the enemy fighters. At least try to escape them. So Amagi has damage controlled immediately from the fire we had on him. We'll group up the torpedo bombers and we're probably going to go attack and kill him off. The Hindenburg is too close to Montana. That combined AA is just too powerful for a tier 9 carrier. You'd lose most of the planes, or you wouldn't have an effective attack because of a defensive fire, so the spread of the torpedoes wouldn't be hitting. The Amagi is still isolated by himself. This group on C needs to be dealt with, but at the moment, going to kill off the Amagi. Probably should have done it in the first wave, but now we're going to finish him off properly. And the enemy CV doesn't seem to be a problem. Our ships continue to move along the border. We'll go into A. But as it stands, I'm just attacking them as quickly as I can. I think... Oh, I tell you what it is. I sent one torpedo bombers after the Amagi and the other 2 torpedo bomber groups down south over the B on the minimap. They are actually intended for the Yamato. So in comes the guy's fighters. First wave strafes directly into his 2 fighter groups because I see that he's got them too close together. I get 2 plane kills. My other 2nd group attacks his 1st group, and because I'm now controlling the 2 torpedo bombers going after the Yamato who's leaving the cap, I'm not too overly focused with microing the fighters, so I know there's no hostile AA nearby, so I just tell the second fighter group to tag his free fighter group, so they're both tagged, and if he exit strafes, then I'll deal with it. And now I see the Yamato, I see that he's flooding, he might repair, he might escape this, so we use the 2 torpedo bomber waves we've got there to finish him off. There's no Ibiki for defensive fire. If there's a gearing in the Groz, the Yamato's so low, it's worth going in and try and get the killing blow, which is what we do, we get the killing blow. The fighter wave we won in the north, so now we bring the second group back to deal with it. The 2 group is now wounded, so he's going to come back and land. The 1 group has all planes, has got reasonably good ammo, so I can keep him out on the battlefield. Our team has moved up from the A cap, they're going to get the B cap, this is fine. In terms of number of ships around, we are slightly behind by 1 ship. 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Yeah, so it's basically they've killed 5, we've killed 6. So at this moment, the game is going reasonably well, but I still am some way away from 150,000 damage, and I'm thinking, right, what do I need to do? I'll probably go after the Montana, because he's somewhat further away from the Hindenburg. Hindenburg AA range isn't the greatest. There aren't any other large health pool ships to go after, other than perhaps the Taiho, but the Taiho is a kind of a defensive fire, so the thinking here is send the dive bomber in, and the dive bomber is inside the AA bubble of the Montana for as short as possible. Very important. We fly in, we get a hit, we get the dive bomber, we get that fire, but you see the plane wave dies. So it gets in, it gets its 4 bombs and a fire, but then it just dies. But we get, what's important thing is we get our fire damage, and we get a hit on the Montana, and we're just trying to accrue fire, because usually battleships will not damage control party 1 fire, and we're just basically trying to farm a bit of health off of him. And while this is going on, I'm a little bit concerned that my team's all in the center, but at the moment as a carrier player, I'm thinking kill the Montana. My mentality right now is I want to kill the Montana, I want to get some damage. Montana just slams her out in A, and I'm like, oh, what on earth? So now we're pretty bad, because it's now 7 on 5. We see fighters over the Montana with a catapult fighter taking off. My fighters aren't anywhere nearby, so the 6th group is going to be the bait for his catapult and going to go in immediately. We see that the 6th group gets tagged by his fighter, but he doesn't go after the torpedo bomber. Torpedo bomber gets 3 good torps off, fighter, dive bomber just drops all over the place. Our fighter spotting the Groz for our Shimakaze. We get 1 flooding on the Montana, and the Montana doesn't damage control it, which makes me think he used it earlier, or he's in a long cooldown and he's going to bleed for some time, so that's great. Our 1 fighter group is over a gearing and a Groz and is absolutely getting wrecked, and that's really, really frustrating because I can't spot him for a Shimakaze. However, because our Amagi is spotted in B, the enemy destroyers see where he is, they're firing. If I'm thinking, well, I can get torpedo bombers and I can attack them in the smoke because I can see where they're firing from and maybe go after them, but at the same time, our Shimakaze can also see where they are in the smoke, and we see now he actually kills the Groz, but the Shimakaze then comes out and kills our Shima, but then our Shima then gets a double kill because it kills the gearing, so this is actually really helpful. Our fighter and our bombers are thinking, that's fair enough, we flooded out the Montana, we got him killed. The next target's got to be the Hindenburg. We have an Amagi, we have an Edinburgh. Our Amagi just got dive bombed. He's probably going to fire and bleed out. Yes, he is, just right now. So now it is a 4 on 2. We have an Edinburgh in the center. He has to deal with an Ibiki, a Hindenburg, and a Shimakaze. My carrier, I've moved to the north of A. I'm going to move my carrier further north to get closer, and I'm going to have to attack the Hindenburg. However, he's going to use this island here at Delta 5, and that means I can't approach from the reverse side, and I don't want to fly over him because then they'll die. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to regroup the torpedo bombers and go around and then approach from the other direction. And even with a defensive fire, I feel I can kill him so long as I have a good approach. Enemy's got torpedo bombers coming after my Edinburgh. I don't want him to die, so we do a strafe with the 2 group. We avoid his fighter. Carrier's not really paying attention, so we'll manage to mitigate most of the damage. 2 group then fights his fighter. We're inside maybe the Hindenburg's AA range, but at this point, I don't care. I want to tag them, and I'm moving my torpedo bombers into position to attack the Hindenburg. My feeling is that the enemy carrier is not very good. Otherwise, if I was the enemy carrier, I would have exit strafed with that group into my own into the torpedo bombers. But we don't have to worry about that. And now here's the problem. Hindenburg has killed the Edinburgh, and it's 4 on 1. We've got the cap point advantage. We have to kill the Hindenburg. We're doing some dive bombs. We kind of miss. He didn't use a defensive fire there, but I believe the defensive fire has been triggered now for the torpedo bombers. Which it has. We see the spread in the torpedoes, it's been triggered, but we're using all 12 torpedo bombers, and we only need to hit a couple of connections to kill him off. And then one more. Boom. And so even with the spread, because we used 3 waves and he didn't kill too many of them, killed the Hindenburg. That's a big step forward. Now our western flank is free. I can move the carrier up north and staying close to the combat area and reload. Our 2 group could be refreshed on the fighters, but what do I do now? Well, the Ibiki has to die because he's a big threat. He's probably going to go for B. The Shimakaze, I'm thinking, will also go for B. However, it's also possible he goes for A. I don't necessarily think I want to stay near A and B or go into those cap zones, because if I start taking shell fire, I'm going to have a really bad day and I'm going to be on fire and I can't take planes off and I can't continue to bomb. Game clock is 6 minutes. Cap points, we're reasonably close. In fact, we're catching up because of the cap points. So I'm thinking, yeah, this is doable. I can win this game. The first thing is I don't want to get spotted by planes. So I'm keeping the 1 fighter group out. The 2 fighter group I'm refreshing, so I've got more ammo, full wave, because I've got enough plane reserves. I've got 2 fire reserves. I see the dive bombers incoming. I'm going to fly past them and then reverse exit in, attack from behind, and then that way I'm going to get a clean strafe and hit both waves. Or at least I think I'm going to hit both waves. I clip the second wave, only 2. I notice the dive bombers are fairly quick. I don't want to get spotted because I know I'm going to get shot at, and I can tell I've been targeted by the plane spotting and priority target. So another strafe from the fighter cleans up the dive bombers. We now see the Ibiki's on half health, or he's actually less than that. He's on 1/3 of health because my UI can tell me that. And even with the defensive fire, I know if I get 3 torpedo bomber waves in position, I can kill him off. I just need to deal with the enemy Taiho trying to bomb me. And I don't really want to use my defensive fire if necessary, so my ammo's really low, so I'm trying to do some strafes. I realize I can't kill all the torpedo bombers off. The fighter's out of ammo, the second wave is only taken off, so trigger the defensive fire. Because it lasts 2 minutes, it's more than enough time probably to win this game, or lose this game, because it's going to end before then. So we focus fire 1 of the torpedo bombers with our AA, and the second one with our fighter. Only 1 torpedo gets in the water, so we make a hard turn around it. While this is all happening, we can see the enemy carrier is north of B. Don't want to fly near his AA, so in that respect we stay away. The Ibiki, we're going straight for him. We see a catapult fighter. I want to attack the Ibiki as quickly as possible because I don't want the Taiho getting inside these AA envelope, killing more planes, and possibly using defensive fire to panic the planes. The enemy Ibiki doesn't use a defensive fire, but he's doing a hard turn, so the first wave is kind of pinning him into condition. The 3 wave drop isn't the greatest, and the 4 group drop is panicked because of a catapult fighter. So he actually miraculously survives this with no floodings. But thankfully I've got a few planes left with dive bombers. I'm able to follow up, get a Kraken, get a clear skies while I'm at it because I'm attacking the enemy dive bombers, kill the Ibiki. And now I realize, well, the Shimakaze's at A. He's capping A. I can't stay near A. Should I go to Charlie? Well, we're behind in points, and if I go to Charlie, they're going to grab Bravo. This is bad. I can't win with points. I need to kill the enemy team. Now, the enemy Taiho is probably going to have a defensive fire, thinking in my head, or I can't guarantee that he doesn't. He doesn't have fighters. I know he's got some bombers, so the 1 group was out of ammo, so that's currently refreshing. The 2 group, I'm keeping, and I'm trying to find the destroyer. Where's the destroyer? He was at A. He's captured the A cap point. Is he going back to B? So that's what that fire's looking for. In terms of dive bombers, my captain is AA spec'd, so I'm not too overly concerned about the dive bombers, and I know I can damage control that. He doesn't have any torpedo bombers left. Oh look, there's the Shimakaze. So the next thing that's going to happen is we take off the torpedo bombers top priority. We need to fly them away from the Taiho so he doesn't clip a couple of plane kills, and we want to then go around, and then we're going to attack the Shimakaze. With 3 torpedo plane waves, we should be able to kill the Shimakaze. Then it becomes a 1 versus 1, 3 minutes on the game clock. It's hard. This is very difficult. There's no element of mistakes. I can't mess up. I'm going to go into the B cap, but not until the Shimakaze is dead, so I'm going to stay close. I'm staying close so the plane turnaround is quite good. If I go into the B cap, I'll go into gun range and possibly torpedo the Shimakaze if I don't kill him in this wave, so I kind of want to sort of keep my distance. I don't want to be easily shot at, but at the same time, I'm trying to get to the Shimakaze without getting too close to the Taiho, and I realize the Shima's getting close to the Taiho, so I'm like, alright, let's go. We have to attack him right now. I've not got a lot of time here. The enemy's up to 850 points on 3 cap points, and then I realize because the Shimikaze is going south, I tell my carrier to go south into the B cap so I can try and stall him. The cap point is you come in from behind on the destroyer, so the 5 group is pinning the Shimikaze in, but I see that he's continuing to turn, so now the 3 group is going to anticipate the turn and is going to do the torp drop. So because the destroyer's locked in the turn, the 3 group then drops torps, anticipating that, and gets 2 connections. Shimikaze kills his speed off, so that's where the 4 group then comes in at a minimum potential range, and you see the torpedoes activate split second before they would be duds. We get a kill. Oh my goodness, this is really tense and really close. Now I need to kill the Taiho. I'm in the B cap, I'm stalling the B cap, so the enemy's only got 2. We've got a minute and 30. This is going to be very, very close. 2 dive bombers are up while the torpedo bombers are flying back. We'll send the dive bombers in, see if we can trigger a defensive fire. Has he got a defensive fire? Did he use it earlier? We don't know. We want to put fires on the Taiho. I want to see if he damaged control parties. So there's a fire on the Taiho. I'm watching the damage control numbers that are ticking up on the top right. I see that, oh look, he's damage control partied already. He didn't let the fire burn, so we send in the second dive bomber wave, the 6th group, and now because I'm flying straight at him, it's just the torpedo bombers are going attack, attack, attack. No regrouping, we just need to hit him as Kamikan. We're in the last 60 seconds, there's no defensive fires, good torps, we're going to get a full 4 connection, dive bombers as well, multiple fires, and a flooding. Even though his secondary is setting me on fire, I was able to take off that torpedo bomb wave. Next one, kill. Just attack, 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 and we get him. And man, I was pumped after that game. But it just shows that with careful kind of ship positioning and you know, being not at the edge of the border so that your planes take a long time to come back and a long time to attack, there's a sweet spot where you can get close enough so the turnaround of the planes is shorter, but you're not being shot at or torped or going into necessarily dangerous scenario. What ships you can and can't attack? Well, if you know a ship's got defensive fire, can you kill them in one wave, such as the Hindenburg or the Ibiki? And the issue is, so long as you get a good approach, that's fine. We don't want to stay inside enemy hostile AA as much as we can, so we want the shortest possible route, which is why we'd go around, for example, in the Hindenburg. Destroyers, the technique is you come at them from behind, you lock them into position, and then when they don't turn, then you come at from an angle. But if they do turn and try and avoid the rear torps, then you use the other one to anticipate the turn, the hard turn that they're in. So it's just a game of our team kind of collapsing, there's a lot of destroyers, there's a lot of elements going on, and we're just basically having to pick up the slack. And every time we get a kill, we're maximizing the effectiveness of our Taiho. We're using fire, we're using floods, we're not relying entirely on alpha strikes, we're trying to eke out every bit of damage we possibly can, but at the same time making sure we don't lose planes. So we have as many at the end of the battle. We were very low in dive bombers, we still have torpedo bombers. And we also want to win the fighter engagement. The enemy carrier there wasn't particularly good, we didn't see any defensive fires, his fire control was kind of meh. Maybe they weren't upgraded, maybe they didn't have the modules, but ultimately we were to win the fire duel, we were to intercept bombers in some key locations so we weren't spotted, and we were able to systematically pick off the enemy one at a time because they were somewhat isolated and not all together. And that got us a win, and then ultimately that was a 3kbase experience game. 7 kills with a Kraken, with a solo warrior, with a Confederate, with a high caliber, with a clear skies, and yeah, it's a highlight. It's probably the best I've ever played in the Taiho. And I just thought it was a good game, and there was a lot of decision making that goes into winning a game like that, and I thought I'd share it with you. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.